Bern, Switzerland. A light mist drifted from the patchwork clouds, cascading down past the red-tiled roofs and meandering through the cobblestone alleyways. Ian watched as the delicate raindrops danced upon the surface of puddles, creating ripples that intertwined with each other in an endless ballet. He lifted his gaze, mesmerized by the misty rainbows that emerged from the spray, their colors bright against the grey backdrop of the sky. The sunlight, breaking through the clouds, cast a golden glow that painted everything in a soft, ethereal light. Compelled by a sudden impulse, Ian picked up a small stone, tossing it into the nearest puddle. The splash was satisfying, sending waves that disrupted the tranquil surface, a reminder of the simple joys to be found even on a damp, rainy day. Total was trying to get his bearings straight, using the compass on his phone before Love interrupted. "Want some gum?" asked Love, splitting open the wrapper and crinkling it into his pocket. "Sure," said Total, opening it up and reading comic within, as he smacked and smashed the gum in his mouth, saliva forming in between his gasping breaths. "Geez, man. Do you have to chomp on that like a cow?" asked Love. "I can hear you, clicking your teeth from here. Chew softly, softly. It's good gum," swallowed Total. "I know, but you didn't have to shove 3 of them in. I like these comics they have in here. Old Bazooka still has funny stuff." "I don't get those jokes," said Love. "That's why I throw 'em out. Look at you slobbering and drooling with that gum with dishevelled hair. You're going to freak people out. It's zesty stuff, this gum," spat Total, as he looked around to see a family and a kid staring at him with smiles. The kid walked away blowing bubbles into the air, with his bubble machine giggling at them as the bubble burst and popped and splattered. Total looked upward, his gaze fixed on the sky. Above him, the sun, a golden orb, brought life to the enchanting city of Bern, Switzerland. It felt like a journey back in time as he observed the city from his vantage point atop a steep cliff, the river below rushing with purpose. Hawks soared overhead, their flight smooth and buoyant. To them, Bern must have seemed like a vivid scene from a manga cartoon, colorful, soft, graphic, and utterly brilliant. Ian felt a deep connection to the city, its timeless beauty leaving a lasting impression on him. They walked the same bridge and cobblestone path that Einstein walked, with the clock tower staring at them in the face. "Can you believe that, Love?" said Total excitedly. That was it. The clock that inspired Einstein to write all those papers about relativity, time, light speed, energy, atoms, you know. All the answers to the universe. "Wow, eh? Ja. Wow," said Love, walking forward over the bridge that crossed the river. He tried to imagine what it would be to ride on a beam of light. Childlike curiosity. That's what solved all those problems. Yup. The inquiring mind of a child, continued Love, chewing his gum and walking to the museum. I mean, that was it. The walk. "Did you have any mysteries solved about the universe by it?" "No," said Total, stopping. "None, eh? Well, keep walking." Said Total, looking down at the water below, then up at the museum. It looked like a medieval castle with a bear in the front guarding it. "That bear has paws the size of frying pans," noticed Love. "Ho-hoo-oh," he chuckled. "Burnishes Historisches Museum." They walked in, paid their tickets, went up the stairs. It started off with a hall and staircase of mirrors, reflecting every light, movement, and sound into a loop of infinity. If the mirrors are not there, does infinity still exist? A magician uses mirrors to create illusion and hide reality. Conversely, the reality of infinity is illuminated by mirrors and math formulas and hidden by illusion and forms. Oh boy, butterflies, goosebumps, snakes creeping up my back. Strange, very strange indeed. Intriguing and scary and beautiful and mysterious. So many words. Scuff, smack, smack. Oh, geez, yelled Total as he fell up the stairs and smacked his palms on the staircase. "Spacing out again, eh, Pally?" said Love from behind with a slight chuckle. "How did you know?" "Dude, we are surrounded by mirrors. I could see the whole scene into infinitum, if I must say. That's what I was thinking about," said Total, wiping himself off. "Infinity. Yes, infinity," he repeated, looking at Love with a guilty smile. "What about infinity?" Love asked just as a father would ask his 8-year-old son, interested to hear his childish inquiring mind, no matter how out there it is. Total began. "If infinity exists, then it exists everywhere and always," He cleared his throat. Ahem. Even in every choice you make. So you're saying each choice I make is repeated over and over and over again. Well, I didn't say it. It was just a famous saying from Friedrich Nietzsche. I'm just connecting with it now. Wow. I get to have sex with all those hot girls again and again and again. And all those meals and parties, laughed Love. Yes, man. That's the awesome part. But why can't I choose a different girl or food or party? Asked Love. Why do I have to repeat these choices now? Don't I get a new slate every ride of the roller coaster? Good question. I'm not sure, said Total, looking at his reflection, bending in the mirrors. It was just a thought experiment. It can't be proved or unproved. Sorry, too deep for me. Said Love with a sigh and slow release. You know I hate museums and all this crazy talk. But these mirrors are awesome. I can see myself from all angles, he said, flexes his triceps and laughing at his own pretentiousness. Cha laughed Total. You won't have to hold up a mirror behind your head when you're getting ready for the bar. Love turned his head and touched his bald spot. Total continued. To cover your bald spot with wax. You can just stand straight and relax. Yes, that's true, said Love, puffing his hair in the back. Good idea. It would be less strain on your neck and shoulders anyhow, added Total. Yes, and just imagine having sex in here. All the angles and curves and expressions, totes. The girl would never forget it. It would be the ultimate romantic thing. Candles burning and flickering with every slight breeze. Curves of the body shimmering in the low light. Love and romance in full 4D HD infinity. Orgasms magnified in infinity. Best parts and happy endings infinitum. Ah yes, sighed Love. Your choices and feelings will reflect also. So that high you get from the chase will be symmetrically matched with the low you feel after orgasm. That emptiness when you realize the truth. What's the truth? Asked Love with a nod. Is his face now? I'm not sure. Maybe the post-coital depression, he stated, taking a deep breath. It seems like a whole personality shift has occurred. 1 minute all I can focus on is the intelligence coming from the lips themselves. Hair, skin, breasts, curvy hips, cool personality, sexy raspy laugh, and twinkle in the wide dilated eyes. I crave and desire it. Yes, don't we all? Mocked Love. Then after the explosion it's gone. All I can see is thick legs, muffin tops over jeans, dark shadows under the eyes, smoker's voice, dried lipstick and bloodshot eyes, and the nuances that will annoy me in the future. Yes, but that's the fun. The contrast, the bitter sweetness of it, added Love. What happened to you? I never heard you talk like this so seriously. Well, infinity happened. Infinity? Well, tell infinity to stop happening. Ha! That's impossible. Visitors meander through the gallery, surrounded by a vivid array of pictures, experiments, and timelines. Each exhibit, meticulously curated, captivates and immerses them into Einstein's world. They're taken on a journey through the significant chapters of his life. From his early days growing up in a Jewish family, facing setbacks like his rejection from the army due to medical reasons, to the pivotal moments of exile as he fled the rise of Nazi Germany. The displays feature rare artifacts, each telling a story of struggle, resilience, and brilliance. Einstein's formative years at the patent office come to life, leading to his groundbreaking work on the general theory of relativity, followed by the development of his special theory and the exploration of the atom. This narrative doesn't just recount historical events. It reveals the relentless curiosity and determination of a man whose contributions forever altered our understanding of the universe. Think about this one. If Hitler never came into the picture, I wonder if Einstein would have figured out that equation. What equation? Well, E=mc². Why wouldn't he have figured it out? Well, he had to come to Bern and see the famous clock. The clock was rumored to be an influence behind all of his theories. Really? Why, the clock, asked Love, crossing his arms. The Zicklog, he added, laughing at his own joke. Didn't you read anything in the museum? Asked Total. Yes, a bit. But my attention span is weak. I must have missed that one, and you know I hate museums. They are just like walking through a non-fiction book. The clock had the regular big hand and little hand and the sun and the moon on the hands, said Total, drawing it with his hands excitedly. So, added Love, shaking his head and smirking. So it's rumored that the idea of space and time being one thing came from him walking past this clock every day. Time not being the tick of a clock, but relative to the observer. Yes, actually, yes. Agreed, Total. I never thought of that. Well, it was obvious to me, laughed Love. Good stuff, smiled Total. I also think the river beside it had an influence also. Why the river? Maybe time flowing like a river. Sometimes fast, sometimes slow. The speed of light being the baseline. The constant. Well, his equation also showed that there is a speed limit in the universe. The speed of light, which is represented by c2 in the formula. Swiftness of light accelerating. When someone or something travels at the speed of light, things seem to slow down and get more massive, like a govern on a car or motorbike, asked Love. Yes, that's it. Can't seem to get past that speed limit. Something slows you down and forces you to become more massive. But a black hole puts a speed limit on light, added Love. Huh, asked Total. I read in there or somewhere that light can't escape a black hole, said Love, touching his nose. Isn't that a speed limit? I don't know, said Total. I never thought of that. Yes, I can. But I'm not sure we are making sense. We are just coming up with random shit to explain the world's toughest problem. Trying to sound smart. Ja, I guess. But it made sense to me at the time, chuckled Total, choking on his gum. Let's leave these up to the Einsteins and Feynmans and Boers of the world, said Love, wrapping his arm around Total. Pally, let's get a coffee. And Cox and Michu and DeGrasse, added Total. Love perked up his posture, smile and chin with those words. Okay. Washroom break, Pally. Let's meet at the coffee shop downstairs past the infinite staircase. Need something to split this boredom up. My stamina is low. Not feeling so arduous. Lost your pizzazz. I'm not as passionate as you about this. Get some coffee. It will spark you up, advised Total. More zeal and zing. More moxie and mojo, he added playfully. More punch and oomph. Enough, pleaded Love, as he laughed in between words. I'm bouncing out of here. Love went downstairs for a coffee break and met up with Total later, who was sitting down and immersed in his phone, researching pollen, using the Wi-Fi from the museum. Good coffee? Asked Total, without looking up. Yup, replied Love with more vigor in his voice. Smells sweet, noted Total. Exotic blend. No. The server accidentally put honey in it. That's not too bad of a mistake, smiled Total. I think I called her honey, and she ended up putting honey in, chuckled Love, taking a sip. Nah. This happens to me every time at Timmy's also. They give me a chai tea instead of cafe mocha. Unbelievable. I'm sure she was sweet. Oh boy, Total. Oh boy, was she ever. Blonde hair and dark eyebrows and eyes with a shy voice. Poo-poo, piararoa. Well, you probably made her day. We done at this place, asked Love. Almost said Total. There is another section I wanted to check out. Can I just sit here, asked Love. You could. But you will miss the part about pollen and how he figured out about atoms. Oh, what a shame, answered Love. Bees. Buzzing ain't so exciting. Buzz, he mocked. Total got up and walked up the stairs and through the museum again. Love slowly followed him, took a sip of coffee. Why is this pollen so important? Asked Love with a bit of contempt in his voice, following quickly behind Total. Well, Einstein figured out that there were tiny atoms in everything. Some other scientist questioned why pollen in a cup wiggled. Einstein inferred that the small particles must be jiggling atoms in chaotic patterns. Okay, so everything is made up of these atoms, like Chemistry 101, said Love, looking at the cinnamon dust in his coffee. Protons, electrons, and neutrons. Exactly, said Total, stopping under a flickering light and looking where to go next. The proton and neutron in the middle, and the electrons flying around the outside of like a fan, repelling other electrons of other atoms. Ja, said Love, putting the hot coffee against Total's arm and whispering into his ear. Our teacher said that nothing really touches anything else because of this magnetic-like repellent. Ouch, yelled Total, rubbing his arm in pain. Electromagnetism, mumbled Total. Why did you go and do that? Perfect teaching moment, bursted Love, leaning over on his thighs for laughter support. Ha, ha. Well, the electrons from my vibrating coffee rub against the electrons of your arm. But they never touch each other. Oh, said Total, still rubbing. It's just the friction that you feel. The crackle and pop, he said, laughing. Sorry, Paul. Tell me more about these neutrons and protons. Maybe that'll cheer you up. Without hesitation, Total continued to explain, ignoring the burn. Inside, there are neutrons and protons which contain unbelievable amounts of energy, like throbbing. Ba-bomb, that's the E in the equation. Yeah, I can imagine, said Love with open eyes. But is it really throbbing? No, probably not, answered Total, holding his hands down from his throbbing ball pantomime. I needed it for a little power of emphasis. You know? No, I don't know, replied Love with a stern face. Anyways, the M stands for matter. The particles themselves which have a mass, said Total, pinching Love's stomach and his own arm, and knocking on the wall and stomping on the floor. Mass, eh? Like my fat? Said Love, lifting his shirt and flicking a slab of skin dangling from his firm six-pack. Not necessarily, replied Total. Just the physical substance of stuff. Ah, yeah. That French scientist there, old Lavaux there. He measured different gases and particle changes and figured that out, eh? Yeah, Antoine Lavoisier, during the French Revolution. He put all those gases through different tubes and chambers and watched them change states, and the same amount of matter was left in the end, as was in the beginning, right? Yeah, man, that's the guy. That's the experiment. Matter man, said Total with a smile as he clapped Love's hand in a high five. You're sharp today. On fire. Just crackling. Well, yes, Total. Biology does have a little bit to do with matter, I would think, he said, tightening his head and widening his eyes to emphasize the sarcasm. Matter really matters in biology. That's for sure. Love stared at him and shook his head. Really? What? Asked Total with a wry smile. That's the joke you came up with, and you're supposed to lead me to believe you understand the world's most famous equation. Ahem. I have an idea about it. I'm not so sure that you do, said Love, swishing his drink around. I'm close, I think, defended Total, scratching his head. Anyways, sniffled Love as he continued his inquiry. So let me get this straight. Einstein became famous because he figured out that this equation proved the Big Bang. B, it's how the sun creates energy. C, space-time and time travel. Speed of light as speed limit. D, and this later on led to probability theory, added Total. Probability theory? Asked Love again, looking puzzled, like at blackjack. Yes, this is where it gets confusing, and Einstein himself even denied it, as he tried to disprove this theory near the end of his life. Dude, I was confused from the beginning. How does it connect with probability? Well, later on other scientists did experiments with light particles or waves. Both they interjected Love, and found you couldn't confirm the location and speed of any given electron. You could only calculate the probability of where it will be at any given time. Long story short, the method of the observer seemed to affect the experiment. In the experiments, the particle would sometimes look a wave on a screen, and other times show up as a dots or particles like bullets hitting the screen. So to compensate, they just threw a percentage out, like a weatherman or Vegas, smiled Love. Shuffle those cards, dealer. Snap me a blackjack. Good luck on that ace, sir, rapped Love, reminiscing his accounts at the casino. Yeah, kinda, laughed Total. So, are you saying you and I are only a probability? The experiments lead to that, answered Total. Einstein hated it, as he famously said, God doesn't roll dice. Where are the rest of my other percentages, a Total? My other selves, challenged Love, as he knocked his knuckles on Total's forehead. Pally, think a bit about that one in your busy little noggin. Total scratched his head. Plus and equal. Neutrons and protons are in the middle, and well, if minus signs are flying around like a fan, and you can only determine the probability, that does in a sense make alternate U's or alternate realities. Little strange though, said Total, widening his eyes and taking in a deep sigh. I say, said Love. My other self is at the hostel now, having a good lay down with old Bobby. He was the smart one. Isn't this fun? Talking physics with me here at this famous place, said Total. No, not really, replied Love. I sacrificed this deal so we wouldn't have to venture off to that super collider thing. paragliding and canyoning is cooler than that, man. Like Simon. Yes, I guess you're right. But the LHD is like wow. I mean, they mimic the Big Bang there. They are looking for the Higgs particle. Oh yes. No more quirky particles. I've had enough with E equals MC2 and old Steinbrenner here. There. But they are looking for a particle that could possibly be a field that gives things mass. And it has to do with symmetry and supersymmetry. Even said Total, his face illuminated and speech rapid. I have enough symmetry with that hot girl's face, and body and leaves and trees. Okay, bud. Let's go. They walked through the museum, just skimming the exhibits as they continued to talk, drinking coffee. Total skimming the material, looking for something to stop and read, and Love poking at his ribs to hurry. Until Total stopped him and pointed at an exhibit. Total sniffled near the end of the war. Another German physicist, Leo Szilard, who was a friend of Einstein's, claimed to have intelligence that Nazi scientists in Germany found a way to create chaos with the neutrons in the atoms and knock them free. Chaos? What would that do? Total answered, drawing on a napkin and using his hands to demonstrate. Well, a chaotic substance like plutonium or uranium would knock one of the neutrons from the atom loose, and that in turn would knock all of the surrounding neutrons loose, causing a chain reaction. Oh fuck! The neutrons can come loose, oh boy. Well, how do they get past the electrons? Asked Love curiously. Well, because they are neutral. No charge, no repellents, and can bypass the fanning electrons and escape that elusive gate, thus hitting more neutrons. Finished Love, his eyes looking to the ceiling. I like pool balls, said Love, imitating the cue break. My dad was a legend. Like a pebble plopped in a pond, added Total, his voice lowered. Is that what the sun is doing all the time? Asked Love. Yes, it pulls particles together and smashes them together with its strong force. One big fire. Well, radioactive fire. Sunburns and skin cancer, eh? Added Love. Patting his forearm, picking at a mole. Yup, same as those radiation power plants. One big nuclear fire, added Total. Don't want to go tanning there, joked Love. Geez, Louise. Pure burn. Just singe ya, stated Total, clenching his jaw. But it would be a free X-ray. See right into ya. And this is how the universe started, supposedly, noted Love. Yeah, I guess. Maybe two particles rubbed together and bang, or two different universes. Or just plot of particles rubbed together. Or energy. I mean, I'm not sure. It's a tough question. Confusing. Like the chicken and the egg, eh? Yeah, kinda like that, laughed Total. Any two things clicked or smashed or rubbed together will make a sound or more energy or a spark. You ever hear an empty radio or TV station hissing? Asked Total, smiling at Love. You know I hate effing hate that, said Love with a scrunched nose and narrowed brow. It's unbelievably irritation, and it agitates me to no end. None, he finished with his hand cutting the air. Ha ha, laughed Total. That's the sound of the Big Bang. From a long time ago. Well, seemingly. But it's still now, still banging or expanding out, or whatever. The hiss you hear is from then, but continuing now. You know, still banging. Wow! The music of the universe sounds that annoying, joked Love. It's all relative to the listener, defended Total, pointing at Love. How much energy gets released in these reactions? Asked Love. Tons. There is enough energy in a glass of water to give light to a whole city. And enough energy in those atom bombs to wipe out sites. In an instant, to boot. Holy hell. That's a big chain reaction, stated Love. Whoosh, whole city gone. So that's why Szilard told this to Einstein. Ah, said Love, nodding his head. But Albert didn't grasp it at first. He said it was equivalent to shooting birds in the dark in a room with very few birds, said Total with an Einsteinian accent. Einstein didn't believe it. Not at first. But slowly Szilard proved it to him. It shocked him to the point of eventually writing a letter to President Roosevelt. What did the letter say? That the Germans may have this knowledge and power to make a weapon to destroy cities. Yes, that's scary. Especially coming from Albert. This in turn started the Manhattan Project. Well, they sent the top scientists on the Western Allies to create this bomb and test it in Los Alamos, New Mexico. They found it. It gave off radiation, which we all know is dangerous and causes cancer. Oh yes, I heard of that Manhattan Project term, but didn't know what it was, said Love, finishing his coffee. Thought it was a band. Haha, maybe it was. The war was almost over with Germany, but Japan continued to fight in the Pacific Islands, even though they were losing and refusing to surrender to the conditions that the Allied nations offered. Why wouldn't they surrender? Asked Love with a puzzled expression. It's part of their culture, their identity of being Japanese. They are very proud. Japan still uses an old ideology of Bushido, which is a samurai code of saving face and honor by dying through your own hands instead of the enemy's. Not to them, defended Total. It's honorable to die in battle. They called their kamikaze warriors the Divine Wind, kamikazes. The same divine wind that stopped the Mongols from invading in their ancient history. So they believed they would conquer the world by sacrificing themselves like a typhoon or windstorm of soldiers for the great emperor descended from the sun, stated Love, with contempt. Wow, that's fucked. I would have given in and went home, or had a good jail meal, or lay down in a POW camp. Then you would be greatly disturbing the that communal bond between the citizens. That's dishonorable. I sure would. Am not sacrificing if I am already defeated. No way, said Love, making an X with his forearms. Not possible. Well, they were trained like that from when they were young. The nation is one being under the emperor. That's what makes them so strong in many things they do. From their perspective, it did. It defined them as Japanese. Besides, this is how any group survives and is successful. They work as a team, with partnerships and mentorships. Camaraderie, harmony, for the nation and emperor. The flag? Asked Love, shaking his head. Yes, like the sun on the flag. They're all one focused unit. Small pebbles coming together as one big stone, said Total. It's funny how the power of the sun ended up destroying them. Yes, wow, I never thought of it that way. Shit. Clever, Love. Clever. Love poked Total again and pointed toward the hallway, hoping it would be close to the end of the museum. They walked further through the maze of a museum and sat down beside a theater booth that played loops of the atom bomb being dropped. The Americans had the war basically won by firebombing most of the cities. They used special firebombs and flew low, burning all of the wooden houses and most people inside. Oh, that's a low blow. War is cruel. The Japanese were extremely cruel to most of the Pacific also. Not many East Asian countries have forgiven them to this day. I guess any country in the war is cruel. A bullet to the head, or bomb to the leg, or gas in the face is as cruel as it gets. Good point, said Total. I would just take the train up to Minnepuka in northern Ontario and hide and fish till the war came to me. Not my style, Total. I'm a lover. I ain't no fighter, he finished as. So with the war winding down to a halt, Germany and Japan almost defeated, to force them to surrender, the Allied forces decided to drop bombs on the only sites left. Why would they drop bombs if their war was basically over? Not sure. I guess to see the impact and damage of the explosion. To make the Japanese finally surrender to the terms. I'm not sure. I mean, who knows the real story? The crazy thing is that Einstein and other scientists pleaded to warn the people before dropping the bomb. They military officials refused. Maybe it was the karma from Pearl Harbor. You know, that's science also. Action-reaction. A huge reaction, said Total, making the arm motion. They had 4 different cities picked out, and they decided to just drop the bomb on Hiroshima without warning. Boom, good morning, Japan. That's a big-ass bang, said Love. On August 6, 1945, a pivotal moment in history unfolded as the Enola Gay, a B-29 bomber, released an atomic bomb over Hiroshima. This event marks a significant point in our collective memory for its immediate and long-term devastation. The bomb's detonation resulted in an unprecedented catastrophic loss of life, with thousands perishing instantly. Hiroshima was transformed in moments, from a bustling city to a landscape marked by the haunting shadows of buildings and people. In the aftermath, survivors faced harrowing trials, from severe burns to the lasting scars of radiation exposure, leading to health complications long after the event. The bombing of Hiroshima is a stark reminder of war's grave consequences and the urgent need for peace and understanding in our world. Then they dropped the other bomb on Nagasaki, destroying that city also. Yes, only Kyoto and another city was left intact. That's why Kyoto is so revered today. The Japanese rebuilt their economy and are still striving today. I've lived there, and I'm not sure it's from a lack of knowledge, or acceptance, or forgiveness, or all three. But they have always been kind and accommodating to me and other foreigners also, argued Total. Really, asked Love. I thought it was tough as a foreigner. Well, they have always been kind and helpful to me, shrugged Total. At least on the surface. But I can imagine it would be hard to let go of those emotions deep down inside, especially for the older Japanese who may have fought in the war, or were close to someone who did. Yes, that's true. So Total, the wise idiotic one, what would you do to stop world wars and injustice and violence and rich poor gap and all that? I'm not sure. Let me think. What would you do, Mr. Lovey-dove Love? Have sex and orgies and parties. Ha. Yes, that would be our religion. But first I would destroy all religions together. They seem to be at the heart of most wars and violence and territory. What about money? Money isn't the problem. It's the handlers of money. Yes, that's a tough one. Glad I'm not a leader. That's why we just travel and have fun. Not many decisions there. Well, I would like to say that selfishness, anger, jealousy and ignorance are the enemies, answered Total. But it would be hard to educate the entire population to use their prefrontal cortex and correct that animal amygdala instinct through empathy. Yes, no shit, that's a lot of schools and teachers and countries and students all on the same page, laughed Love. Who's writing that curriculum? I still think democracy has its value. Nodded Total, unsure of himself. True democracy that was in the time of Greece, with votes by the public, with black rocks for yes and white rocks for no. Don't we have that now? Asked Love. It appears we have that. But we can only really vote on the people that make the decisions. We can't vote on the actual bills. Our voice can't be heard past the elections. We vote for the people in power, and then they make decisions for us from that point on. It's not the same true democracy in its original form. Yes, guess not. Today, technology can provide that same system the Greeks had in those beautiful marble assemblies areas, in the foothills and olive gardens of Athens. How is technology going to do that? Simple. For every bill passed, the people of the world log in, read the bill and vote on it. Take away fake accounts and corruption the computer, and you might have an accurate reading on how people feel about how to run the government. Oh yes, I never thought about that. Like one of those surveys we send out at work or on Facebook. Good luck trying to organize that, laughed Love. Yes, exactly. It would have to be extremely secure. If we educate all people in self-control, compassion, tolerance, open-mindedness and acceptance of other cultures, then we may have a more peaceful, less insecure, greedy and all that. Sounds like a fantasy. That's not going to happen. Besides, the world is much better than it was 500 years ago. Yes, it probably is, and we may end up worse off than we started. But you put me on the spot with that question, and that's the first thought that came to mind. First thought, best thought. They said simultaneously. Jinx, you owe me a bottle of Coke. They said unison. Ha ha ha. They both laughed. Love pushed Total off his seat. Total spun around to see a huge panoramic picture of Hiroshima on the wall. The black and white picture showed the destroyed buildings and rubble, aftermath apocalyptic Hiroshima or Nagasaki. Yes, it was Hiroshima. Total could see the famous bomb dome that stood beside the targeted bridge, and radioactive river that the burned victims attempted to cool off inside. In the heart of destruction, the bomb dome stands alone. A singular figure amidst chaos, its wounded structure mirrors the desolation around it. In this moment of eerie silence, Total identifies with the dome, pondering their shared sense of isolation. It was an ordinary day with clear skies. People were immersed in daily routines, riding trains, walking to work, shopping. Suddenly, a blinding light and a deafening pop shattered the peace. The ground trembled. A devastating blast swept through the city, followed by a towering black mushroom cloud. This apocalyptic vision, complete with what seemed like the horns of a devil, eventually gave way to a silent fall of black snow. The once majestic mountains now loomed over a city stripped to its bones. Skyscrapers had been reduced to skeletons. Streets were littered with the remnants of life and the echoes of chaos. Amidst this eerie silence, the cries of the wounded filled the air inescapable, heart-wrenching. Amidst the devastation, a streetcar sat a relic of a past life, holding within it the remnants of a day that started like any other. This piece of normalcy stood in stark contrast to the surrounding hell, and the air it hummed with an unnatural vibration, unsettling in its persistence. The dome, amidst this ruin, waited for the moment the chaos would finally quiet down, much like the brief resonance of a Buddhist monk's bell or a child's play abandoned. It longed for peace, for an end to the relentless aftermath of that fateful flash. "Sorry, WWII," said Total softly as he walked toward them and bowed. A couple stood there looking surprised that he had approached them and randomly started speaking in their native tongue with a strange accent. "Japanese people is?" "Yes, yes," they said after looking at each other in shock, then laughing in relief. "Japanese people is," they replied. "True. Sorry I am. Hiroshima," said Total as he though of the correct words and grammar. "Very sorry." "Ah, okay. It is." "American person is it?" she asked. "No. Sorry. Canada person is." "Ah, really? Japanese language skilled is." "Thank you honorably," he replied with a bow. "Sorry. Only little Japanese I know." "Japanese language. How understand?" asked the man. "Japan life." "Where?" "Nagoya City is." "Is true." "Yes." "Oh, great. Japanese skilled it is." No, thank you. Theory of Einstein create atom bomb. So this place now have atom bomb picture. E equals MC2. Oh, really? E equals MC2. Interesting it is. "Pleasure to meet you," said Total bowing, allowing them to finish the tour. "Yes, pleasure." They both replied as they bowed, walked away and pointing at the picture. "Hey, Pally. I see you were talking to your fellow countryman, Simon now." "I am still a foreigner there," said Total blushing. "Sure you are. You love that place. You will never come back." "I will eventually." "You're picking up the Asian language pretty good, though, eh?" Love nodded. "Thanks." "Yes, I enjoy it," said Total smiling. "But that was beginner. Sounded good to me. To you, yes, not to them. But it does help me understand and appreciate the culture deeper and more empathetically." "How did you know they were Japanese?" "Well, first I heard an Asian language from a distance. Then I saw the dyed hair, facial structure, nuances and clothing style. Okay, and I added it all up, and then asked them politely in Japanese if they spoke Japanese." "Oh wow, Total Sherlock. Don't they have like 10 different alphabets?" "Yes, it's complicated, but interesting. Come on." "I see those symbols in downtown Toronto and have no idea how any of those symbols can mean anything." "They probably say the same thing about English," countered Total. "We don't have that many symbols." "There are 26 letters in our alphabet," argued Love. 26. How could that be interesting? "Well, the Japanese started using pictographs from China about 5,000 or 10,000, I think. But you don't know." "I'm approximating. I mean, there is a lot. Too much." "Well, then they decided to simplify the symbols and created hiragana. More fluent and elegant, and only about 49 symbols." "Only?" "Yes, only," smiled Total. "Later on, they encountered the Western Romanji characters in the English language and decided to match them with 49 symbols that look like hiragana, but are a bit more stiff and boxy. They are called katakana." "Why did they do that?" "That's more complicated," said Love, shaking his head. "Not sure. I guess to distinguish between foreign words and Japanese ones." "Oh wow, that's even more confusing." "Then they put it all together on food products, subways, newspapers, and other labels. So caveman symbols, Japanese for foreign words, and foreign words are all smashed together on one page." "Yes, exactly. That's impossible." "I can't barely remember what my tattoo symbols mean," said Love, looking at the Chinese symbols tattooed on his arm. "Father and son forever," said Total. "I know that," said Love with contempt. "But I can't understand how father looks like a father. Or son. I mean, look at eternity. Shouldn't it be a figure 8 or something? It looks like a chicken stepped in ink and walked around." "Not entirely sure about the history of those ones, but mountain and center and river are easy," said Total, writing into the sand beside the curb they now sat on. Yes, I guess those ones are pretty picturesque, eh? Said Love, kinda self-explanatory. It rumored they wrote these on rocks or turtle shells. That's why they are so square. What about aliens coming down with skinny necks and big heads and eyes? Said Love with a straight face. No, not at all, replied Total with a forceful chuckle. Total drew a cross surrounded by lines looking like ladders or steps. What's that mean? Asked Love. What does it look like? Asked Total. I mean, it looks like an X inside, layers of lines inferred Love. Well, because it's from China, there are two readings. Luckily, in our case, they sound similar. What are the readings? Kai and Kai, pronounced Total. Ah yes, like in Kung Fu. What ah, yelled Love as he placed a karate chop, a hair length away from Total's nose. Total didn't budge. Ajak Seodya. Yes, like Kung Fu and karate and yoga. That internal energy or strength or fire they forever speak of. That vim, that vigore pali, said Love, breathing deep with his stomach and moving his arms kung fu-ishly. Yeah, something like that, agreed Total, now smiling at Love's attempt at a Tai-Chi. My dad was always talking about balancing his kai. He did that 5-animal style, kung fu in Montreal. You know, the monkey and tiger and snake and praying mantis. All that. Yeah, I know. He is the one who inspired me. He showed me a couple moves and I was hooked ever since. Your body structure would fit perfect with Mantis style a grasshopper, said Love, using his thumb and index finger to pinch Total's bicep. Total just looked at Love with a neutral expression. Ah yes, said Love, it's about techniquoir and mental awareness, AA. PYA, continued Love with his Mantis movements. Feistiness, then calm. He finished in a meditative posture. You're getting a little sprightliness or high on that coffee, a pally noted Total. So you were saying, pointed out Love, about the language of Kai. Jah. I found it interesting how it can be used in many ways, he said, drawing more symbols. They also used it for your overall feeling Genki, whether Tenki, health bioki, electricity Denki. Doesn't yoga and acupuncture talk about this a lot? Your internal Kai lines and stuff, asked Love. Yes, that's the same energy. But I think it's been misinterpreted. The theory got too spacey. Yes, exactly. With healing Kai power and putting needles in meridian lines and walking on water and using the force to move things telekinetically. Angels and sprites and aliens and crystals. It got all piled into one bag. That's all hippie shit. One with the universe and all, said Love, his hands waving in the air. Yup. I think it taints the true meaning of it also. I don't get it. Before you left for Korea, you were right into all of this. You believed in the Force, thought you were a Jedi. Some of that shit sounds so wacky and quirky. Yes, I know. I didn't realize that until I went to many different Buddhist temples. I slowly learned they were as human as us, and similar to some priests in Canada, just striving for position and power. Mind you, there were some authentic ones that were truly inspirational and kind and compassionate, but definitely no magical, Force Yoda powers. So you had to learn from experience, young grasshopper. Exactly. It also helped that I had an annoying work partner that challenged me on every statement I said regarding reincarnation, Kai power, healing, etc. Probably smirked Total. If I mentioned anything metaphysical, he would race to the internet and prove me wrong. Didn't you challenge him? Yes, every time. But I wasn't able to find any evidence for a counter-argument. All evidence I found was intangible all stories and legends and third encounters. No concrete stuff that could sway the argument. That's 'cause all that shit's hokey-pokey, magic wandy, said Love in a goofy tone. Come on, man. Been telling you that for yeses. E equals MC2 is E equals MC2. Gravity. You're right. I couldn't find any evidence that fit his A plus B equals C formula, agreed Total. What the fuck? A plus B? Asked Love, confused. Well, it's logic and science. That formula is the basic language in which we can make sense of our world. It's what philosophy and science work from. Well, yeah, of course, totes. If you don't have that, then people can just say anything and it's Ruth. Like they can float on air, or heal the sick, or speak with aliens. Yup. I tell that you my students in biology class. Any child or psychotic person can make a statement and have a hypothesis. But you need evidence, and the evidence needs to be proved over and over again with the same results. Then the evidence can start to make predictions that come true. Finished love. Like your friend Albert here, with the light traveling around gravitational warps made by planets and moon and suns. I guess that annoying co-worker saved me, said Total, putting his face in his hands. Your co-worker must have been annoying, checking the internet every 2 minutes. Yes, he was, agreed Total. But he changed me. Brought me a little more down to earth and a common ground of communication. I guess you need to have a balance of both ideas and evidence, said Total. But be able to prove the theories, said Love. Well, that's the beauty of it. Einstein's theories actually can be plugged into everyday life. His theory of gravitation and space-time explains how the Earth is pulling and holding you and me and everything on the Earth now. The Earth is caught in a warp made by the sun. The tides caught in the moon's warp and move on Earth. All tangible stuff. Think of your smartphone, said Total, pointing to it. There is a satellite that is in the Earth's orbit that your phone signal sends a message to and bounces back. That's general relativity. Special relativity says that electrons are bouncing from shell layer to shell layer in the atom, giving off photons and energy waves, which speeds the signal up. I learned about electrons and shells in physics. But how is it giving off photons? Well, look at this symbol again. Okay, said Love, taking a glance. On the macro scale, it could symbolize steam coming off rice, or heat coming off a body. The caveman might have had an intuition that this energy was in everything. Tea steam, human body heat, rice steam, trees and lungs, water, heat, wind. Okay, like a flow kinda, said Love. Tai-Chi flow, or on a hippie level. The spirit inside the shell, or ghost in the machine. The Kai inside everyone, said Love, playing along. Haha, yes, could be. All good metaphors. But still only metaphors attempting to describe phenomena that are extremely difficult to describe, even with our modern-day equipment. I still don't know how they see all these atoms and photons and quantum particles, complained Love. That's a precise instrument, added Total. No shit, eh? Now on the micro level. Let's pretend the X is energy locked up in the atom. The proton and neutron in the center and shells of electrons around it. Okay, that's the small number they put on the periodic table, right? Cha, jumped Total. Good connection. If you picture an electron on each shell surrounding the neutron and a proton which are just waiting. Okay, nodded Love. Then something makes the electron jump from one layer of the shell to the next. In this process of jumping, a photon light particle comes out, creating an energy wave at light speed. Then the shell resets to its normal state. This continues to happen over and over again, sending more signals and more energy at light speed. That's Einstein's special relativity mixed in with electrodynamics and quantum physics and all that. That's the stuff I like. I need 1 + 1 = 2. I hate that fantasy theoretical shit. Parallel universes and probabilities and aliens. It's too much out of the ordinary. Or the probability of 1 plus the probability of 1 equals a good chance of 2. 1. 1 me, 1 you, 1 tree, plant or spot of dew. Rhymed Total cheerfully. Or do on your shoe, added Love. Isn't it poo? Yes, brown chunky corn poo. You are. Oh shit, there she is. Ooh, my girl who served me coffee. Cut out that spacey talk, said Love, adjusting his glasses and waving. Okay, agreed Total. You were talking to her earlier. For some reason, the male creative energy always wants to merge with the female, and vice versa, said Love. Go tell her about particles and physics, and what you learned of Einstein, joked Total. Nah man, that's what scares 'em off, elbowed Love. Cut it out. Okay, fair enough. Go talk about magazine and pop songs and trendy clothing. That will be exciting, Total said sarcastically. Sure beats the weather. Does it? Shut up. Love got up and walked toward the girl with gentleness and confidence. Grabbed her by the arm softly and said, Sorry, I didn't catch your name when I was grabbing my coffee. That's because I didn't give it to you, she said as she turned her shoulders and put hair behind her ear. Love looked at her, smiled and smirked. She looked back, smiled and said, Titania, what's your name? I'm Love. Nice to meet you. Jesus. He just strolled over there knowing she wanted to talk to him, broke all the rules of picking up, and picked her up. Crowley saw her smile and make eye contact earlier. Cry in the gym, tanning salon, laundromat and bathroom, laugh on the playing field. Old Love proverbed wow. She would have slapped me in the face before I got to the weird physics. Love chatted, took down her contact info and walked back toward Total. How's that for flow? Total grinned as we left the museum, heading back to the heart of Bern, where the river, a mighty force, carved its way beneath the bridge. The landscape, lush and inviting, cascaded steeply below us. Alongside, people bustled on the bridge. Some ventured into the water, swimming or gently floating in tubes on its vigorous flow. Our attention was caught by a group of students engaged in an experiment, under the watchful eye of their teacher. At the river's edge, some collected water into buckets, gauging its volume, while others ferried the water upstream to measure their heart rates with the teacher, who eagerly calculated the data from their smartwatches. Once recorded, the water was returned to the river, completing their scientific loop. This little slice of life alongside the river, brimming with learning and activity, was a stark, beautiful contrast to the serene and powerful force of nature beside us. What on earth is this? Asked Total. A summer school lesson? Well, if I were to infer Professor Total, said Love in his most contemptuous teacher voice, I would estimate that they are inquiring into the first law of thermodynamics. Total looked at Love in complete confusion. Oh, my friend Total, said Love with a laugh. I've got skills too, Pally. Teacher skills. And said Total, intrigued and slightly laughing. And my stumped friend. The law of energy can't be created or destroyed, is evidently being polished, here in this very case, said Love, his fingers in bunny ear quotes. How so? Asked Total, stepping back away from Love and crossing his arms in front of his chest. Well, the force of gravity is pulling the water down the hill. And the students are measuring the force of the water and putting that energy into a bucket. Yes, okay. Well, fuck man, put it together. The body requires energy to carry the water. The teacher is measuring it in HR and calories. Yes, the energy will all add up to be the same thing in the end. Thus continued Love, his palms in the air, proving energy cannot be created nor destroyed. Geez, that's right, said Total, rubbing his forehead and clearing his throat. You're totally right. How did you see that? Did you do that lesson before? They laughed as the sun began to lower on the horizon. Imagine a world where time travel, atom bombs, nuclear energy, and GPS systems are part of everyday life. All these groundbreaking concepts tied to the mysteries of gravitational space-time, the speed of light, and the transformation of matter into energy originated from a single remarkable mind. This is the story of a man who synthesized the work of past scientists with his own unique, almost childlike insights. Inspired by a simple clock adorned with planets and crossing a bridge over a meandering river, he escaped a repressive regime in Germany for the enchanting city of Bern in neutral Switzerland. Here, in a realm of democracy and peace, his genius found a true home. We owe this incredible journey of discovery to Albert Einstein, whose curiosity and innovation have indelibly shaped our understanding of the universe. As I tie my shoe, avoiding the public mud, I'm taken back to lessons of youth and the seemingly trivial skill of shoe tying. It's more than just laces and knots. It's a dance of memory and learning. Rabbit holes and songs. Who would have thought such whimsy was grounded in the need for clean shoes? Walking on the yellow path designed for the visually impaired evokes thoughts deeper than the texture beneath my feet. It's a universal design, yet it's more than guidance. It's a bridge to understanding the world without sight, a world where sounds paint pictures, and every step can be an adventure or a challenge. This path, Bright and unmistakable, serves more than its walkers. It highlights a journey we rarely contemplate. Consider for a moment the heightened senses of those who navigate the world differently. Their reality, rich with sounds, textures, and tastes, challenges our understanding of sensory experience. To live a day blindfolded is to walk a mile in their shoes, gaining perspective, enhancing senses perhaps otherwise dulled by reliance on sight. And yet, the beauty of sight, the spectrum of colors, from the mundane to the magnificent, is undeniable. From magnifying glasses revealing the intricate details of ants and dust, to telescopes uncovering the vastness of galaxies, our eyes connect us to the world in irreplaceable ways. Oh, there you guys are. Perfect. I was just about to get the train. I think it's the right one. What took you so long? We were here the whole time. We just had a good laugh watching you talk to yourself. Hands and mouth and laughs. Geez, man. Haha, funny guys. It was. It actually was. Laughing at your own jokes again. If they are funny, yes. If you were to take one sense away, what would it be? The hollow sound of the door puffs shut, as the nurse forces a smile and greets Total, then asks him to sit down. Total flipped through the several forms, scanning quickly the questions listed. They were written in Swiss, German, French, and English. Hello, sir. Do you have an appointment? Yes. What time? 9:30. I know. I'm the one who was late. Sorry for being snappy. I'm not from around here, and I couldn't find my way. Oh, could you please fill this out and please wait? It may be a while as we have to fit you in. Sure. Name. Easy. I always loved this one, although must have been hard as a kid. 24 letters total. Wow, didn't even fit on my hockey jersey. Everyone made fun. It's still a nice name. Good flow to it. I wonder if I should give it to my son, or if my wife will like it. Maybe she will want a hyphenated name. Then it will be too long. Way too long. It will have to wrap around the front of his jersey. Will he be a hockey player, or sports player, or dancer, or artist? Will it be a he? Will I be able to produce a child? Oh God, look at all these possible illnesses. I have to have one of them or two. I read once they come in clusters. That's what the doctor looks for in blood tests. Cluster or patterns. Mine are always fine, only one thing slightly out of place, HDL too low or lymphocytes, but I'm sure they are missing something. They have to be, tests aren't always that accurate. Besides, the nurses may be students or middle-aged women who just go through the motions and overlook something. I'm late. Doctor, may take it personally, subconsciously or consciously. I've already tainted the experiment. Observer usually does. Ahem. A tall man about 45 with salt and pepper hair sat down heavily into the chair next to Total, knocking his pen to the floor. He just stared at Total without saying sorry. You all right, said Total in annoyance. Yeah, he said with a strong accent. French, German, Swiss. Geez, they are all a blur to me now, all mixed together like a soup of perfumes being tested at a department store. I need the coffee bean or ginger to reset my lingual auditory palate. Are you from around here? Pardon, do you live here? Yes. Date. What's today? Address. Do I put our hostel or my home in Canada or Japan? Previous illness. Nothing really. Does a hernia surgery count? Taking any medication? Booze and weed are self-medication. Do vitamins count? That's a pill. The pharmaceuticals just use natural stuff and remake it into pill form. So what's the diff between a vitamin? Let's just keep it simple. Always running late, a trait seemingly inherited from familial roots, contrasting starkly with my father's punctuality, a virtue instilled by Grandpa Mitch, emphasizing respect and the importance of empathy. As I sit here, pondering over the potential diagnosis by the doctor, I'm enveloped by the sterile scent of the hospital. It's a blend of security and cleanliness, akin to a metaphoric baptism cleansing humanly sins of bacteria and viral diseases. Surrounded by professionals in their pristine white coats, I can't help but draw parallels to a mental institution or an experimental setting. They exude kindness and professionalism, yet I'm acutely aware of the undercurrents of commercialism in healthcare. The reliance on formal identification for treatment underscores a harrowing reality without it. One is virtually helpless. Medical fees reminiscent of a mechanic's charges escalate with a need for specialists. Echoing my uncle's advice, I find myself in a dilemma, questioning the wisdom of entrusting my health to a general practitioner. It's a critical decision akin to seeking quality hockey skates where expertise matters. Amidst these contemplations, I realize the importance of staying ahead with technology, unlike Bobby and Love, whose detachment from advancements fosters a delayed acknowledgement of change. This journey is a reflection, a realization of the intertwined complexities of life, health, and progress. I hate the doctor office. It's the waiting, calling for the appointment, waiting for the date, waiting for the date, maybe a cancel, waiting on the subway, waiting in the elevator, waiting in the waiting room, then waiting in the doctor room. Then they send you for tests that you have to wait for the results. Yes, I agree. But c'est la vie. I sometimes like watching the television or reading a magazine, said his new friend. It's a long story. It's okay. We have time. We are in the waiting room. He laughed at his own joke. Total began with a whisper. I woke up at about 7:45 the morning with a general malaise as the sun shone through my shutters. The birds chirped through my window screens, the same song I heard when I was a child. How did they know that same song? Was it inbred or taught? Most likely inbred, I thought. You don't have to go into so much detail, said the man with a smile and hand on the shoulder. Oh, okay, said Total, his head down, a little disheartened. It's okay. I'm just joking, said the man. Continue any way you like. Total smiled, sat up and carried on. Every year I came home for the summer and pondered getting an appointment to check my general health and gathering some medicine and other materials I can't get in Japan. Blood tests, physicals and over-the-counter medicines, razors, baby powder, etc., said Total, clearing his throat and pantomiming the hands. Yes, yes, I can imagine Japan is limited in their selection, said the man, taking a drink of his water. In our small town, we only had one physician, so it was difficult to get an appointment. Our cousin was the office receptionist, so she told me to come at 8 a.m., before anyone arrived, as there might be an opening. Not me, said the man. I have a stomach of steel, he confirmed strongly, by pounding his fist against his stomach. I figured I would be fine eventually. But I felt it was about time to face the reality of my body and health. I considered sleeping in, said Total, leaning back in his seat. But somehow I made a checklist and motivated myself to get out of bed. Get out the door, go to the doctor, office, ride my bike in the forest, and come back for a good solid breakfast, listed Total, as he sat forward in his seat and counted off the catalogue of stuff he wished to do. Yes, I think that's what I was doing. I kept putting it off and off and off, and now I'm worried it build up too much like trash in a garbage strike, said Total with his palm on his forehead. Oh, no problem. Your body has natural garbage collector. It will fix it. Trust me, he stated, yawning and rubbing his eyes, which had black shadows near the nose and a yellow tinge beneath the lids. I quickly put on my clothes and went to the garage to grab my bike. As I opened the door, I could hear the blades of a helicopter slicing, spinning and rippling through the air. It was hovering over the river, then ran through the town beach, rocks and rapids alongside the railroad. There was rumor of a boy who drowned during the night in a part of the river in which a majority of the town swam, jumped off cliffs, fished and walked along. This river was part of our lifestyle. I guess they didn't find him yet, I thought to myself. I continued to bike to the doctor office through the streets, which were wide and quiet as usual. The town was a single main street place with one bar restaurant, a railroad station that connected both Canadian coasts and plenty of recreational facilities to play hockey and baseball in. I arrived in the red bricked old town office converted into a library and doctor office. I walked up the stairs, sat down and grabbed a pamphlet. "Hello," said June the secretary. "Hello, how are you?" I said, still groggy from sleep. "Great," she replied with her usual cheerful smile. "The doctor will be with you in a minute." My father, who frequently went in there, was correct. Although there were a pile of medical files on the counter, the office was empty at this time. I guess I'm not the only one lethargic and late in the morning. Our healthcare system really needs to work on prevention instead of reactionary. Yes, I know. But that's like sweeping dirt under the carpet. Haha, true. It solves nothing. The Western medicine is great for emergency surgeries and acute cases, but it needs to integrate some other strategies to help with prevention and chronic conditions before they get to the point of emergency. As I read the pamphlet about colon cancer and the risks, I realized I had most of the symptoms. This was why the naturopath I went to earlier wanted me to get tested so quick. Blood in the stool, bloating, inability to pass stool, mucus. People with IBD have a high risk of cancer. This gave me a slight scare, but a sense of relief that I may be finding a way to cure my disease and discomfort. It also gave me a challenge. You know I love challenges. I continued to sit there as the force of the chair pushing up against me harder than usual. I went into the room and sat down on the bed with paper covering it. The room smelt like sterility. I liked that smell. I often bought soap that smelt like that. My cousin and I chatted about Japan and Capriole and our lives. She then asked me how long was I feeling intestinal discomfort. I said about 4 yeses. It started light, then became more frequent and uncomfortable. I said I was ashamed to put it off this whole time. She comforted me by saying, "That's what we all do." We had a general chat about my symptoms, and he checked me over for anything out of the ordinary. Probing, poking and prodding, lights in the ears, eyes and the patent cold instrument against the chest cuff. After his assessment, he recommended I go for a colonoscopy and X-ray to get an accurate diagnosis. I left the office with an appointment sheet to the test lab and a prescription for diuretics to clean me out. How funny, I thought to myself. You have to clean me out to see inside. Like draining the water in a pool to patch up the cracks in the concrete that's leaking water. As the chime sounded out the door, I rode down the street past the charming town square and toward the ski hill trails in which I usually biked. As I approached the grocery store overlooking the river that lead to the hill, I saw a parade of people standing by the river as the helicopter hovered above. The dirt road to the ski hill was blocked by police cars and barriers. Some people stood outside the gates and some within. There were people sitting on chairs alongside the river with a canopy covering them. It's as if they were watching a boat race from a grandstand, and this was the finish line. The river ran down from the north and was created by glaciers during the Ice Age. The glacial movement made beautifully laser-cut cliffs alongside the flowing water. Adventure enthusiasts from all generations of the town learned to swim and dive here, challenging death with 15, 20 and 30-foot cliffs that landed in 5 to 10 feet of water, depending on the winter thaw and rain. We grew up here. It molded our character and defined us as a hippie beach community after the boom from the 2 world wars. My father was a local legend, diving off these cliffs into 5 feet of water. In all of my life, I had never heard of any accidents occurring here. It was always a place of pleasure and community. But today, the river carried a different rhythm. As I pulled up to the barricade on my bike, I listened in on a young man wearing a blue grocery clerk outfit talk to 2 women about what happened. "He must be downriver," said the boy, tilting his greasy cap. "All that way to Green's Lake there." "No, no," said the women, waving her hand. "He is still in this area under the cliff," she argued, pointing her wrinkled finger at the cliff that looked like a baby elephant. "That's why the police are looking here," said a chubby-necked, middle-aged man as he smoked a cigarette and placed one hand in his striped overalls. Even Jamie Ross says he's down river there, eh? Added the grocery clerk. But the boys said they were crossing the rapids 20 feet from the pool, said the woman with a phlegmy rumble in her throat. That's where he fell in and couldn't swim, she added while clearing the phlegm. Swimming was such a natural thing, I thought to myself. I guess it's difficult when you panic. Freeze up, tighten, sink. The friends with him tried to save him, but couldn't, said the man as he blew smoke from his mouth and scratched his red beard. The police should have been here earlier with that helicopter, said the boy, crossing his arms. Yes, agreed the woman, placing a palm on her chest. That's what our tax dollars are for type thing. I had been around this town for too long to believe a story that had been passed around from person to person. I inferred that the body must have filled with water by now and would sit in that calm deep pool created by a steep drop-off in front of that cliff we called Baby Elephant. It would resurface according to the time and laws of physics. Unfortunately, I realized everyone's theories and talk wasn't important at this time. It was the state of the family, friends, and community. I watched the mother walk toward me with pure sadness, pure sadness, her wrinkled forehead, trembling hands and red eyes sobbing as she leaned on anyone she encountered, then hugged a group of people standing around her. People continued to get out of their cars and walk out of alleys like zombies floating toward their source, attempting a peek in the glassy river. The mother made her way back to the grandstand gallery of onlookers waiting for the discovery. I felt a strange similar feeling I had when an earthquake hit my residence in Japan. Everything was alive and alert. All minds were in tune to the group mind and story. All activity and energy changed. I imagined this is what it felt like during wartime. I felt an unbelievable electric shock of empathy for the mother friends and family. I imagined the twanging feeling they would get when the body was found. They could see their beautiful boy again, but in a different light. Father Time had him now and left his mortal coil for a temporary viewing. I looked at my watch and realized I had to get my medication, go for a bike ride and meet my family at home. I rode down the road to the town pharmacy to get my diuretics. I then cycled toward a bike path in the evergreen foothills on the opposite side of town. As I pedaled, my cadence matched the sound of the helicopter blades. I hadn't been on that trail in years. I remembered playing and riding on BMX bikes there with friends that were both dead, alive, and now dead inside. I remembered the names we used to call the trails, Turbo and Manhunt, the cabins we built in the trees and the war games we used to imagine and play in the park. As I wheeled through the path, the red pine needles complemented the deep and bright green trees. Mosquitoes, black flies, and dragonflies all danced around my head as I tried to swat them away. Black mud splashed against my back, bike, and pants. I rested on a bare rock face overlooking a clear long lake as my heart began to slow down. I sat there in silence staring at the reflection of the rocks and trees that glimmered. I could still hear the helicopter chopping through the air. I couldn't escape that unique piercing sound. I hopped on my bike again and cruised through the roller coaster of rocks, mud and roots until I met the concrete road in town beside the public works office I worked during the summer. I weaved through the labyrinth of streets in town until I pulled up to number 7 house on Crescent Street to see my neighbor, uncle, father and mother standing there discussing the incident in my driveway. I would have jumped in if it was my son. I couldn't help myself, said my mother. Yes, maybe. But everyone reacts in different ways, egged my father. He got caught in the current and couldn't swim, said my uncle. He might be upstream in Greens Lake by now. I would be careful of stories. We all played the phone game in school and know how a story can change, added my dad, flicking his cigarette and adjusting his glasses as they tinted with the change in light. Oh my, said my mum with her hands over her mouth and eyes filling with tears. I guess they found them, said my father. Yes, and too fast. But you had to compete with the television, said the man smiling, revealing his tobacco grill. It was better than listening to those infomercials about teeth whitening or cavities or toothpaste or Viagra. He finished giving the middle finger to the TV in disgust. Yes, can't stand those, said Total, looking around slightly embarrassed. Total went into the waiting room to wait some more and check out the walls as he sat down on the tissue paper covering the bed. He scanned the room for eye exam posters, human body diagrams, old steel scales, vaccination posters, cartoons of germs, and I was station. It was just like his doctor. Office in Capriole. How did I not notice I was talking too loud? I completely disturbed the wah. Have I always been wearing these unempathetic, unreflective earphones, blindfolds, nose plugs, gloves? Can I not hear that empathetic echo? Those loopy signals us primates receive from environs, pruning us down to the most honest and sullied fiber that encases, transmits our soul. Oh, how our telltale brain tells nothing and all, so obvious for some. Yet the rest sit in the dark, ignorant midst and blind spots of our own spotted mirrors. She then took his blood. Total looked down at the vial, something he always did to appear tough. Total looks up at the doctor with groggy eyes as he approaches him with more rhythm and intensity, a little swagger in his body and bounce in his step. What about my test, doc? Says Total, his arms in defense. That's why I came. I sent them from Croatia. What are you worried about? It's a 12-round bout, son. Do you want to go down swinging in a flame of glory? Or do you want to use your speed, skill, stamina to chip away and savor each round till the end? 12 rounds, son. 12 rounds. Do you want to give everyone a nice show? Or hide in your corner? Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Look at me. Sweet 60, solar spin 3. And I'm still pretty as can be. Pretty, pretty, pretty. 12's rounds, son. 12 rounds. Rumble, young man, rumble. Paint that canvas with blood, sweat and tears. Come on now. Total woke with a jerk to see the doctor and nurse above him. I thought you could handle looking at needles. You said it doesn't bother you, asked the nurse. It usually doesn't, said Total, rubbing his eyes. Are you faint by the sight of blood or injuries? Not usually, said Total, looking at the nurse and doctor with a confused expression. Well, now it's 3 times. You have had a long vacation. You're tired. Well, your tests seem fine. Nothing worth checking further. You're within all of the healthy ranges. You're quite healthy, considering you have been traveling, and well, I'm sure you were enjoying yourself, he said, laughing. Your lymphocytes are a little low, but that's normal for the wear and tear you have put on yourself. Here is some water, said the nurse, also giving him an ice pack to put on his neck. Yes, thank you,